was a great speech, but already got a round of applause. So thank you, Simon, for that. Thank you for inviting me to speak. My privilege. It's a privilege to be here. I am the party wall guy. I'm going to change my name officially, actually. Sorry, I'm not a tech guy. That's why I've got the USB to plug it in. So I'm going to have to stand near here and. It's all right. Sorry. I'm going to put the mic away because if you can't hear me, just put your hands up. Okay. So I'm the party wall guy. Quick show of hands. Who's come across the Party Wall Act in any shape or form or whatsoever? And who hasn't heard of the Party Wall Act? Doesn't know anything about it? And who's not going to put their hands up regardless whatever I say to them? So great. So yeah, go for it. So quick look through the agenda. I'm going to introduce you to the Act, give you a quick background, purpose behind the Act, and a couple of case studies. I'm going to go through it today. So keep rolling. Okay, so focus groups. I'll put the mic on just to keep it rolling. So focus groups. Any homeowners planning to do extension on their own residential property? So pay a little bit of attention here. Any financiers or any people who deal with finance for developments, developers, need to pay attention to this bit because what can happen is it can slow their projects down, cause the finance to come to an end of term and cause problems for them. And basically, in terms of financiers, what you're looking to do is to create long-term clients so they have a successful project, they come back and do the next one. So all I'm trying to do is help those guys finish their project without delays, so they can come back, return the money and get some more for the next one. Then we've got property development, property developers. These are the guys who do the really hard work, who find the projects, who actually build the stuff. And with these guys, any delays can end up costing them money, particularly when they've got builders on site, they have to stop works for any reason, especially if those reasons can be controlled at the outset. Once you've got a team of builders on site, A, they're going to drive you mad, B, they're going to cause you problems, and C, they're going to cost you a lot of money in delaying your project. And again, it ties back to the financiers who then, where their finance ends in term, start screaming and shouting at you. So any developers need to pay attention. Then we've got property investors, stroke managers. Now these are the guys who've worked hard to create a little portfolio, done the hard work, and then they come across the Party Wall Act in terms of being served notices as adjoining owners. I'll explain all this later on. And that's a potential for your property to be damaged by the neighbouring guys doing work. So we're going to look at how we can safeguard that. And last but not least, architects. Any architects in the room? That's all right then, I can have a go at these guys. These are the guys that I'm discovering in the recent couple of years are actually a linchpin, and they're avoiding the Party Wall Act because a lot of these guys don't really understand it. Not really their fault. Right, so our story begins in the 1980s, and I've lost my pair of roller skates, but I used to have one like that. So roughly in the 80s, everybody found out that if they put a loft conversion on their house, they could get extra, they could turn a 3-bedroom house into 4/5-bedroom house. If they put a rear extension, they could gain living space. And the fun part was that the cost was less than the value add they would do to their property. So that's when the building boom sort of started in terms of residential stuff. Now this caused a problem because, especially in London and throughout UK, all the properties are built quite close together. And it was impacting neighbours' property who ended up taking people to court. Around this time, just prior, we had a heat wave in 1976. So the building control regulations were changed so that you had to do deeper foundations. You know, people talk about the 76 heat wave. I know I've got a few grey hairs, but I was quite young then. But we've been on surveys where people are talking and saying, we had a heat wave about 2013, they were saying that we were around in the 76 heat wave and all the foundations started to crack. So, by this legislation it meant deeper foundations. So together with the problem of people doing more works and having to do more intensely in terms of foundation, there was a problem arising in that neighbours were taking each other to court to stop their works, and the government's answer to this was a the Party Wall Act, Party Wall Etc. Act 1996. I'll call it the Party Wall Act for short. Sorry, this should come on the next one. Right, so the background to the Party Wall Act is the London Building Act 1939. And I am slightly old, I've got a few grey hairs, but not 1939 old. So from this 1939 Act, that's where the Planning Act came from in 1947 when post-war World War II development started. So the Party Wall Act applies to England and Wales only, not to Northern Ireland, not to Scotland, and it does apply to Southall and Liverpool, anybody from Southall or Liverpool. And that's the most frequent question I get. Southall, I didn't think it applied to us. I'm sure it does. So 1 in 42 properties throughout England and Wales are affected by the Party Wall Act. Okay, now the purpose of the Party Wall Act is twofold. On one side, it's an enabling act. It's there to help people do their building work without going to court. It's not there to stop you doing works. And it's got some very useful stuff in it, like Section 1, which allows you to put scaffolding on neighbours' land without having to get a scaffolding licence. It also allows you to raise a party wall in terms of doing lofts, and a bunch of other useful sections in there that aids development and building works. On the other side, it provides protection for the adjoining owners, i.e. if your property is next to someone carrying out works, you might get on well with them, but you're not sure what the builders are, and builders can always have a variable day depending on how well a night out they had the night before. So you're concerned about your property and you want to protect it, so it's got a joint purpose there. Okay, basic terms of the Party Wall Act. You have a building owner. Now this is the person, the entity, the limited company who wants to carry out works. There's only one of these guys in a party wall scenario. On the other side, you have the adjoining owners. So adjoining owners, now there's 4 classes of adjoining owners, and depending on the project, you can have multiple types of owners in each class. You have the freeholders. Now, freeholder, everybody knows the term. The next item on the list is the leaseholders. This is leaseholders of more than 1 year. So short-hold tenancies don't apply to this. There's another short-hold tenancies, council tenants aren't leaseholders. So it's leasehold owners of more than 1 year. Now within this leasehold section, you come across commercial projects where you've got commercial leaseholders between 1 and 7 years. They're not registered on land registry, so we can't pick these guys up sometimes. And if you're a leaseholder and you've got a lease between 1 and 7 years, you don't need to register it for land registry, but you should make your freeholder aware that you're a notifiable owner. Now the next item number 3 is people who have a right to receive profits. And until I started going to property meets, I thought, what the hell does that come in? Who's got a right to receive profit? So it's anybody who's done a rent-to-rent agreement, a lease purchase option, or anything flash, because they've got a right to receive rent from that property. They're also a notifiable owner. And the 4th group, finally but not least, are if you're contracted to buy land. So we often get scenarios every year where people are saying, I'm doing building works, I've given my neighbours notice, and they've said, yeah, Jack, we're moving out, we're selling the house, nothing to do with us now. So in that scenario, you've got the new owners become notifiable, as well as the old owners, because they have an interest in land, and that's only if they've exchanged a contract. Actually, last week I was talking to a guy, he said, I'm about to buy my dad's house off him, and I'm doing some works. How does that work? And I thought, that's a really interesting question. And I said, what are the timings going to be? So we went into a little discussion. In that case, he could have started the process of become a building owner. His dad's actually the building owner. When I searched the land registry, his dad's name came up, not his. So I said, well, you can't issue a notice yet because you haven't exchanged, you're not an owner, and you're going to have to restart the process when you get there, unless you can do your works before. So like I said, short-hold tenancies don't qualify as notifiable owners, nor do council tenants, and nor do mortgage companies. So, thanks. So basic terms in a party wall process. It starts with the building controller sending out notices to the notifiable adjoining owners. Now, a number of calls I get saying, I actually had an email this morning again, same scenario. We sent an agreement to our neighbours and they haven't responded. This is not a party wall agreement, this is simply just a notice. Yeah. On the other side, the process is actually decided by the adjoining owner's response to the notice. They can respond in a number of ways. The first one is schedule of condition. Now, schedule of condition is very similar to renting a car. So, it depends how long ago you rented a car. I spoke to a friend a couple of weeks ago. He said, I didn't do that when I rented a car. I said, really? How long ago was that? He said, about 20 years ago. I haven't rented a car since. So, nowadays, if you rent a car, they'll take photographs of the car and see there's bumps and scratches on there, and when you bring it back with doing what Leonardo DiCaprio did to his Ferrari in the film, they'll say, excuse me, we gave it to you in pristine condition, it's your fault, you're liable. So we do a similar process for properties. We go in there, we look at the we photograph all the relevant areas to make sure that we've got baseline, should there be any allegation of damage. Now, the schedule of condition is there to protect you as a building owner. So you've got pre-work survey. The other options the adjoining owner has is to ask for what's called a party wall agreement. It's actually called a party wall award, but you could term it as a party wall agreement. Now that sets out each person's rights and responsibilities. So you as a building owner, you'll have your right to do the works. You as an adjoining owner, you'll have your rights to get compensation if there's any damage caused by the works. They can also appoint their own surveyor, in which case the building owner will have their own surveyor, the adjoining owner will have their own surveyor, and together they make an award. This can be more expensive for the building owners, but it's actually their right in law. And there's various, in cases of basement, it's not recommended to have the same owner as an agreed surveyor. You actually have to have separate surveyors. So people ask, why should I do a party wall agreement? The most obvious reason is it's building owner's personal responsibility. You can't say, I left it to the architect, I left it to the builder, nobody told me about it, you know. So one of the reasons we talk about schedule of condition, it protects the building owner. Project may come to a halt, it's your responsibility. And most of all, every year we get about at least 2 cases where the works have to stop. We have to do the party wall process. We had one last year in Southall, Shelley Crescent. The builders ripped the roof off. They're about to do their works, and because it was slightly more complex than the normal loft, they thought they could get away with it. They had to stop works because the lady next door was actually a barrister. I said, well, you guys better do the party wall award here, because she goes to court, you're going to stop your works. And finally, and most important reason is, it's the law. Ignorance is not an excuse. You can't get out of it. You can't say, I didn't know, nobody told me. So you should really do it for those reasons. So, let's have a look at the adjoining owner process side. So, in terms of adjoining owner, so here I'm talking to guys who've got properties as investors. Sorry, just getting distracted. So here, we're all property investors here. So you as a property investor, you spent time, effort, no doubt money and financing to get your property into a state, into a really good state. And you're worried that, sorry, it's gone to sleep. You're worried that your property is going to get damaged by the works next door. So the building owner sends a notice to your property guys will inevitably end up. Sorry. Oh, charger cable's in my bag. Sorry. Charger cable. Hang on a minute. We'll have a little break while Nisha plugs in the charger cable. So you're worried as a property investor saying, well, it's going to cause damage. Normally you have a right to appoint your own surveyor or have a schedule of condition. When that slide comes up, what usually happens, we find, is building owner serves you notice. It'll be on the land registry address that's on your property, and we see a lot of these are out of date now because people have It was either their own home that they're investing in, their own home that they're now renting, or they bought a property and then they moved on and they haven't updated the land registry details. So you're getting a case where these are just going in the bin by tenants, or the tenants are giving it to the property managers who look at this and say, what's this? Got no idea, just chuck it in the bin. So the effect is the same, and then make it worse, there's no follow-on process by the building owners, who then don't appoint a surveyor on your behalf, which is what they should do, and then there's no schedule of condition, there's no award under the Act, there's no protection for your property, so you need to be wary of those issues. Right, so while the PC is getting charged up, the next slide up, I'm going to try and remember where we are. Sorry. Wait, right, so there we go, it's all being binned, and the problem is you're not ending up with a schedule of condition of your property before the works begin. So if there's a dispute, if there's allegation of damage, you can't rely on something that you could have had all along. So how do we fix this? You need to keep your land registry details up to date and make sure your property managers know what they're doing. Now, the other question we hear about is what happens if there's no response. It's something called a 10-4 procedure. That's it. Yeah, well done. So once you send a notice, if there's no reply, you need to send a reminder letter. The notice is 16 days. The reminder letter is sent 16 days. 2 days are allowed for the service. And the reminder letter is then sent, and if there's no reply within 12 days of the reminder letter, you appoint a surveyor on their behalf. It can't be the same as your surveyor, it has to be a different surveyor. This surveyor will then write to the owners and say, look, give us access to get a schedule of condition on your property, and if there's no reply, then they issue a award and the process is continued. Now the benefits for the adjoining owner are they should get a schedule of condition on their property. That's the same benefit for a building owner because it also protects them from false and malicious claims. Now the other benefit that the building owners gain, the guys doing the work, is once they've appointed a surveyor on someone's behalf, those guys can't then wake up while they've just knocked off their roof and say, I won a party wall award, where's my award, you haven't done this properly. Because they've said, we've followed the process, you can't then jump out and appoint somebody else. So it's important for building owners as well to understand the whole process of the 10-4 procedure. So that's a typical damage clause we put in awards, whereby it's up to the adjoining owner whether they want the building owners, builders to fix it, or they want to get someone in on their own and get estimates. So it's the adjoining owner's right as to how they want the damage fixed if there's any damage. There's also a little clause about works, but I won't go into that. Sorry. So how does the Party Wall Act protect your property? A lot of the times we'll put in something like a hit and miss method statement, whereby if there's a property very close, I've just got one going on in Uxbridge where they're building a retaining wall, they've got rid of 1.5 meters of land depth-wise all along the house, and this guy's saying, hang on, my fence is falling in, my driveway's falling in, and I rung up the other guys and I said, look, you guys better put some rectifying works in quick because his house is going to fall in if you don't watch it. And I rang the architect up and she said, well, I did issue a party wall notice, but these guys didn't wait for it to go through and they've started works already. That should be fun and games. I'm seeing them this Friday for a survey. So you need a hit and miss where it's required. There's avoidance of power tools on the party wall, and one of Millen's good friends, the builder, and he said, oh, I'm working on this project in Isleworth. I said, that's great, I wrote a couple of awards there, and it was the house I'd written an award for, and in the award, because they'd had so much problems with their neighbours, I put in no power tools. And he said, hey, Dill, it took us 4 days to do this. I said, yeah. You would have, the amount of hassle you would have had had you done any damage, you would have been unbelievable. It would have taken you a year to fix that. So, and the last thing of all, is we're putting hoarding in place. Now this is It's a safety measure, but it also stops cats and dogs, and more importantly, children falling into open trenches where they're digging foundations. And surveyors always ask the neighbour the question, have you got any pets and cats and dogs? They never worry about the children falling in. That's a different scenario. Also, party wall surveyors are a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that everybody goes, damn, we've got to be careful, they're involved now. Okay? And don't forget, it's an enabling act, protects building owners from false and malicious claims. So you as a building owner should want to do this. Okay, that's it, great. Case studies. It's time for everybody to wake up now. So I'm going to do a little quiz. There's 4 pictures on the screen. You can't see them too well. I can just about see them, so you know. Out of the 4, how many do you think, they all show damage of some type right there. Out of the 4, how many do you think is damage before the work site and how many are after? Just have a guess at the number and just hold on to it. So there's 4 there. Next one, Michelle. There's another 4 there, so we're up to 8. So add the 2 numbers up. A bit complicated this time of the evening. So we're up to 8. Let's see how many. There's damage in all of those. Now there's another 4. That's 16. Right, and then we're at the last picture. So that's that last picture. That's 16. So quick show of hands. Who thinks out of those 16 pictures, only 4 were pre-existing damage before the work started? Any hands? You're going to have to give me an answer. So 4, up to 4? Up to 8?
12.
Up to 12? And anybody thinks 16 were all photos of damage? Okay, well actually you're all wrong, it was 15 because I'm cheating a little bit here. Sorry, can we go to the last picture? Hey? No, that's a different story, I'll go through that one. So the last 2 pictures on there, sorry?
I said we were the closest. So
You were the closest, yeah. Right. Next time I'll have a prize for this, next time I do this talk. So there's no prize at the moment. So, if I could show you the last 2 pictures, they're actually pictures of the same wall from the opposite side. What happened here was the adjoining building owner rang me up and said, my neighbour's saying we've knocked a brick out of his loft. And I said, that's interesting. So my initial response was, all right, well look, it's not the worst thing that's happened, get your builder to repair it. And he said, no, this guy's given me so much time and hassle, I don't really want to do that, you know. And I said, hang on a minute, I'm going to have a look through the pre-works photos. So the one on the left is a pre-work photo, and the one on the right is a photo his neighbour sent. It's the identical hole in the wall. The claim that the builders had done it, and we found the photo when we did the survey. So the answer's 15, but it just shows you the amount of damage we see already that people then try and claim for. That was a little win for me. I was quite happy that day. Right, so this is damage due to works. Now, this is super interesting. I've just had an email from the adjoining owner surveyor on this one. Right, so I got a call, this is 2 years ago, in 17. Got a call saying, one of our guys is doing, this is from the architect, one of our guys is having works done and there's damage at Swindon, can you go and sort it out? I thought, all right, you know, they've done it, so what can I do? So eventually it turned out that these guys had bought a working men's club, they were working next door to this building, didn't issue a notice, and while they were yanking the wall, they were actually cutting the joists off the adjoining building. And the buildings were really integrated, they were built together and separated when they were sold out. So on the last joist, the builders yanked the joist and caused damage on this ceiling. Because they didn't have a party wall award, there wasn't a procedure to agree the costs. We had to restart the work, we had to try and restart the works. It took a whole year of negotiating and going through the party wall process. We couldn't deal with this damage and it almost ended up in court. Luckily for me, we knew the barristers that then got involved, and the top law firm in London got involved, and the projected costs of just the court costs for both parties would have been 70 grand each. And this project was on hold for a year, and I thought, wow. So, you know, that just gives you a little bit of perspective. Now, imagine if these guys had borrowed this money on a one-year development loan. Yeah. That's a little video. I'm trying to put it on my website. The chimney actually falls down on that one. So this is the next one. Yeah, I'm not going to go through this one. This is super interesting one. You're just going to have to go down. Talk about it later. It's actually a development project that we were doing in Croydon. Sorry, can I? I'm sorry. So this is a little section for architects. Generally, we find there's three types of architects when it comes to party wall matters. There's the guys that will bury their head in sand and say, we're not talking about it, it's your responsibility, we're going to put it in the notes and that's it. There's guys that will give you the notice as someone doing a project and expect you to serve it, and you're looking at these pieces of paper and it's a little bit like a lady throwing an X at a target board, hoping to not hit the bloke. And there's other architects that are very good. I spoke to this chap like this on Friday. They'll do the service for you, but there's also ways we can improve that. So this is the next one. So these are the top 7 mistakes made by architects, and the most important to note are the last 2. They'll send notices by recorded delivery, but actually the better way to do it is to send notices by certificate of posting. Not only is it cheaper, but it counts as service under the Deemed Service Act. Whereas if you send it by recorded delivery, the other guys don't sign for it, it's not deemed to have been served. So your process is ineffective then. Apparently some finance guys understand this stuff as well. So, yeah, next one. Okay, so here's a little tip for people who are doing their residential projects under PD, or even developers who are going to do a commercial development under PD. The green bit is usually the planning. So what these guys do is they'll put the planning in, wait for it to go through, and then serve notices to the neighbour. What they should actually do is do the initial mock-up on the drawings. If it's notifiable works, do the party wall notices, and then afterwards put the planning in for commercial, to be put through, yeah, for approval. Sorry, that's the word. For approval. Sorry, can I go back? The reason being is the neighbours will end up getting letters from other surveyors scaring them. Even though the works are very simple, there's going to be no effect on their property, and they'll end up signing one of these guys and having to end up paying extra fees. So that's a little tip for if you're doing your projects or if you're an architect under PD stuff. So that's the summary. Next one. There's a little summary action table here, but I won't go through it now. I've got, how much time am I out? 5 minutes, okay. So each of the groups I've got here are, you've got building owner. Tip for you as a building owner is to do your notices before you put your planning in, because your neighbours are going to find out. Next one is as a property investor, make sure your land registry is up to date, because you need to know all your notices are being served correctly. Not just party wall matters, council tax, enforcement, all the rest of it. You can also have, actually the best land registry search I came across was for a property investor who'd put his address down, his limited company's address down, which was registered at his solicitors, and their email. So we would have to serve all 3 notices had this project. All 3 places had to be served had we gone through with this project. The next one is for architects. We're developing a little toolkit for architects to help them help their clients. That'll be on LinkedIn in about 4 or 5 weeks, hopefully. And so for people who deal with development finance, Pam, I think you deal with bridging and stuff. Make sure they deal with the party wall process before they start the works. It's something that can be dealt with, that can be without causing problems. And finally, yeah, so property consultant, it's all about timings and project phasing in terms of making sure that you put your notices in and see it through. So there's my details. Connect with me on LinkedIn. There's a lot of free stuff I'm beginning to put on LinkedIn. I've got about 6 articles on there. There's There's also a little, I've actually got a template for notices. You can get that free, and it goes through all the tenfold process and how to do it correctly. There's a government booklet, the red one, that people often look up to do notices, and they always do it wrong. I'm not going to slag it off too much because my friend wrote that booklet. So, but there's my details. If you want to connect with me, happy to share. Simon, and are we doing questions now or later on? Later. All right.
Do the question.
Right. So it's time for everybody to wake up now.